So, let's talk about Crunchyroll.
All right.
Where you guys work. We had like a ton of questions. Thank you guys for your questions. They were great.
Thanks.
A lot about licensing and like how shows get on Crunchyroll. I mean, obviously we've got to hear a little bit about what you guys do, but I know a lot of people want to know. So also personal stuff about you guys.
Yeah.
Just kind of get started. How did you guys get your jobs? And Joshua Torren Reyes asked, I think in our Facebook group, which you should join.
Yeah, I want to.
I'm already in
I
it.
didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
Dang.
It's good. He says, which anime, manga, movie, OVA, etc. played an important part in choosing your careers you have today? So, and then also the same parts of your favorites.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Were you inspired by? I already have my answer.
Really?
Like, come on.
Okay.
I went to school because Naruto got up.
Oh, right. That's true. You would never be here today if it weren't for Naruto.
For lots of reasons.
Okay.
Because I only got my job from cosplaying Tsunade.
Oh, see, you have a more direct reason.
Not the only, but that like
Right,
was
right.
the thing that like catalyst.
So I think that the question has maybe a premise there that's interesting to address, which is that like anime directly was like the
Influences our
inspiration,
lives,
right?
yeah.
Which it's not really. I mean, Crunchyroll is a
For
job
you.
that I got, for me at least.
Yeah.
But I think even for you, like anime in general was probably the inspiration, not any particular anime that made you want to work at Crunchyroll, right?
True.
Like
Not
just
that,
your interest
like,
in the medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to work in the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's lots of anime that I guess we can talk about that inspired us to be fans in the first place.
True.
Or I can also, there are probably some titles that have direct relevance to like the path I took to get here. So it's weird, like the Studio Dean Fate Stay Night is the first show I reviewed for Otaku USA, and that got me some connections that eventually kind of led to working in the anime industry.
I heard that's a really good anime, by the way.
The new UFO
one.
Table one. Don't get it confused. The Studio Dean one is not very good. That's
Yeah.
the one I had to review.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The new one you can pick up like nothing. You can just you don't need to really know anything about Fate Stay or
Yeah.
the Fate universe type.
But you didn't know anything for the Studio Dean one. It just wasn't very good.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying
Right.
go ahead and watch the new one
yeah,
like,
yeah,
without
yeah. So watch-
reservation.
It's just a reboot, yeah. So you
Unlimited
can
Blade
just
Works.
restart.
It's really good. Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. But
Man, I had a list here of things. But what are some other shows from you?
Definitely not like I tried to live my life the way Naruto Uzumaki lives. I'm not kidding.
that's really good.
So like I've always been like not impulsive, but I guess like brave. Like I wanted to work in the industry, so I was like, how do I do that? Like I sort of like do art and stuff in college. I guess I'll do graphic design. So I just like picked up my entire life, put it in my truck, and like drove to San Diego to go to art school there. And just like I'm super unafraid like when making connections. Like whenever people ask me like how do I get a job in the industry, I'm like it's who you know or it's who knows who you are. So
Yeah.
like making the effort to like whatever you want to do, like write blogs, meet people at conventions, things like that. And so Naruto doesn't care about what anyone thinks. Like he's just gonna march up and be like, do you know who I am? I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Like you should know who I am. And so I do come off that way probably still. But and then I actually got my job. I'm not gonna like go into like a lot of detail about the story because it's long and I've just like I tell it every single convention.
Yeah.
But I was sort of like at a Halloween party, right place, right time, met somebody, and then later he looked me up and saw that I like cosplayed Tsunade and was like, oh, you look like her, like this is great. You should come on the Crunchyroll live show. And so I came onto the Crunchyroll live show, eventually was asked back to be a host, like a co-host, and just never left. I sort of like was a cat that like stayed around the office until they decided to like take me in. So I was doing a bunch of like free editing work and like just hanging out and stuff like for this show, and they eventually offered me like a full-time position. So
The person you met is Patrick, right? The editor for Otaku USA, who was ironically not the way that I got into Crunchyroll, even though I knew him and he worked at
works
Crunchyroll.
At Crunchyroll, yeah.
But it's interesting, if I had to name a show, it's not that it inspired me, but I believe the first time that I sent a courtesy email to Keith Kawamura was when another writer on my blog, Anigamers, wrote a review of Nisei Monogatari.
Yeah.
And I sent a courtesy email because Keith, somebody who worked at Crunchyroll, or he still works
He
there.
was a brand
he's
manager
a brand
at the
manager.
time.
And I give everybody this advice if like you're starting a blog, like send courtesy emails to publishers and stuff, being like, hey, we reviewed this thing, right? And Keith saw this and went, oh, hey, do you want a free account so you can do more reviews? And so kind of started this relationship with Crunchyroll as a blogger. And I think I wrote some other stuff that he liked, like a Kids on the Slope review. And then ended up, when I wanted a job at Crunchyroll as a developer, I emailed him and got a recommendation. So again, like knowing people, I just knew somebody at Crunchyroll.
Just
So let's get this out of the way. What are your like top tips for working in the anime industry or people trying to get in? Because we always
Yeah,
get that
we talk
question.
about
You guys,
this in
of course,
panels.
get
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You have your panel, so if you guys
Well,
are at an anime convention, attend their panels if that's what you want. But
in particular, we do working in the anime industry where we talk about that.
Yeah, but like I said, I think my top tip is just meeting people that already work in the industry, whether it be, you'll learn a lot from them just from their stories, but also like making a connection, something that you can later like rely on when, like say I know somebody who's working at Crunchyroll and then I see there's an engineering position open and I say, hey, just so you know, I'm doing this. You know, if they know you well enough, they may refer you, and that can carry a lot of weight.
My advice, which is not the advice that people generally want to hear, is don't make it your lifelong goal to work in the anime industry.
Oh, yeah.
Most people working at Crunchyroll did not do that. Most people, and probably most anime companies, they made it their goal to, find a good job somewhere and ended up kind of finding this place that had something that they liked about it. But just like be good at whatever it is you do and be on the lookout and always be open for, stuff that you're interested in. But don't tie yourself down to that because it's very easy to do that and then just end up somewhere you don't like because you're so focused on just working in this relatively small industry where there are only so many spots open.
Yeah. It's kind of similar.
Similar
like just similar like games journalism.
Yeah.
It's just kind of you have to keep an open mind. I mean, just be good at what you do and just enjoy what you do.
Yeah, and I think passion and like knowledge of the product, like so liking anime and like loving anime and being really into anime is like a huge thing that is very important and valuable. But a lot of people when applying or like thinking that they're going to work in the industry, like they think that is the focus. Like, oh, like I'm a perfect fit there because I love anime and things like that. And it's like, that is a great thing to have, and I look for that personally, and I look like that. I look for that personally when we're like interviewing people, but I think like being good at what you're applying for is like the most important. So
especially outside of brand management, the anime connection. Oh, I'm sure, absolutely. Like you guys would probably much rather get somebody who's super, super competent rather than somebody who is not very good but loves anime, right?
Yeah,
like it's not that useful.
Yeah, there's like skills that you should also have. So like researching the position that you're applying for, goes a long way.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm talking to no one, but yeah.
Yeah, and outside of brand management though, like we hire tons of people who aren't even super into anime because it's like that's bonus points. That's like, oh cool, you're a culture fit for the company.
Right.
Yeah, and then we've hired people just are they a good programmer? Are they good at doing QA? And yeah, basically, if you're really good at what you do, you can probably find a job in any industry that you want to work in. Just kind of always be open to it, but don't focus on
hone your skills.
I love games, I love anime,
And sometimes you can like interview not as well as you could have if you weren't like trying to overly convey that you're a fan.
Right.
Because that will sort of like we're trying to get to know you like not only as a fan, like dude, I know you love anime, you're like here in a One Piece shirt, things like that.
Be yourself, like
be
a person.
Be yourself. Yeah.
Not just a fan.
I think Zach Bershey from Anime News Network has always said about hiring writers. He's like, we hire good writers first and foremost, and then we look at how well do you know anime.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, solid tips.
Solid tips.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to you straight.